There are so many amazing mousepads that are at least somewhat similar to each other, so I do not want to make a separate video for each one. And that's why I came up with this idea, so we will do a tier list which basically only contains S-tier mousepads. And there are actually so many amazing pads released this year, so I had to split the video into two parts. Let's go ahead and start with something that you will expect. So the first mousepad that we're gonna check out and rate or put in the tier list is going to be the LethalGamingGear Saturn Pro. And this one is with the soft base or the medium soft, so not the extra soft one. This is one of my all-time favorite mousepads. There are basically no downsides. It's really good in terms of glide properties. The quality is amazing in terms of stitching and stuff. If there is a downside for this mousepad, it may be availability. It goes to double S tier with ease. This is a mousepad that is good for any kind of game, any kind of aiming scenario, tracking flick shots. It's a mousepad that I've used a lot this year when I reached Face It level 10 with about 150 games or something. One of my favorite pads for TAC FPS for sure. Next up we have the Esports Tiger Tang DAO, which is very similar to Saturn Pro. Very good quality, decent availability, also amazing for any kind of game. The main reason why it's not on my desk that often is because the Saturn Pro exists and it was there before, and I kind of feel that this is one of those Artisan Zero LethalGamingGear Saturn Pro clones. That's the main reason why I'm placing the Tang down S tier, which is the best tier on any other tier list. But in this S tier mousepad tier list there are very small differences between these pads, and these small differences can make or break the list for me. Then we have the Endgame Gear EMC, and I have actually reviewed this mousepad, so if you want any in-depth information I would recommend you check that video. But overall it's again very similar to the Saturn Pro. The one main benefit that it has, at least in Finland, is that it's quite a bit cheaper than the other mousepads that are Saturn Pro or Artisan Zero clones. So that's why it goes to S plus tier for me. The surface is really nice, the mousepad is overall extremely good again. But it just has not stayed on my desk quite as much as for example the Saturn Pro has. Then we have the 4114 Aero, which is one of the very few speed-oriented balanced pads on the list. Surprise, surprise, the quality is very good with the pour-on base and the stitching and such. And the glide properties are also nice. It's a little bit too fast for CS2 for my liking, but the base is not too hard or not too soft even, so that you can get some control out of it if you use quite a bit of pressure. I actually very recently received this, so at the moment I do not enjoy this kind of speed usually that much for CS2. With this mousepad I performed very well, such as I did with for example the Hayateotsu X Soft, but there are always those days when I'm not feeling my best, and that's where I feel that the control pads do get better, so I'm more consistent on the days that I feel bad with control pads compared to usually how it works with the speed pads. Amazing pad and the design is awesome, but this will just go to S tier for me. Back to control pads, and now we are talking about the Pelz from TheWhale. This is a mousepad that I actually do enjoy quite a bit on aim trainers, because it's a pad which I pretty much hold all my records with. But on CS2 for some reason I just do not enjoy it quite as much. I'm having some trouble with micro adjustments at times, and I feel that is due to the roughness of the pad. And also my reactive flicks are not quite up to par, so when I surprisingly see an enemy and I have to flick quite fast to make the headshot, I usually do not end up making it with this mousepad. But it's something very weird. It might be that I'm not just super used to it yet or something, because on aim trainers, as I mentioned, I got basically the high scores on pretty much all the scenarios that I play. It's also a pad that has not stayed on my desk for that long, but the quality and the price are definitely very good. Once again, it's somewhat similar to the Saturn Pro, but I will have to put it on S plus tier just because I've done so well with it on aim trainers. Let's see when I use this a little bit more that can actually hit shots in CS2 as well. Then we have possibly the biggest surprise of the year for me, so this is the FreeFall SV Base Plus or something, I don't remember the exact name. But it's been the best pad of the year for me. It has a very stiff base with basically no give-in whatsoever, and for some mousepads, like for example the Artisan Zero, the medium version is actually quite a bit faster than the soft version for example, so it ends up not being that controlled. But because of the slightly abrasive, slightly rough surface, this one actually has very good control as well. So it's absolutely amazing for any kind of game where you need to be precise. but it's also very good for tracking due to the base. The one downside that it has is that I'm not quite sure what the material of the base is, but it collects a lot of dust, and when it's dusty, it moves on your desk quite easily, so I just have to wash the base quite often. That's usually something that if that ends up happening, I'm not going to be using the pad for that long. But for this mousepad, I actually have to do it because I haven't found mousepad that is pretty much that similar to this one. And the glide properties, the properties with the stiff base that it provides, are quite unique and something that I enjoy a lot in CS2 and in Aim as well. Easily double S tier for me, and easily the best mousepad released this year. If they can fix the issue with the base being slippery when it's dusty, this mousepad is pretty much perfect for me at the moment at least. Really happy that I tried this mousepad, and it's actually because of you guys, as many of you recommended for me to test it. Great work from FreeFall with the mousepad, and I can't wait to see what comes from them in the future. Then we have another slight surprise for me, so this is the slowest mousepad in the tier list today, and it's called TheWhale Rizz. Most likely the worst name ever for a mousepad, but it does not change the fact that this is quite unique and amazing for TAC FPS. It's extremely smooth, but provides quite a lot of dynamic and static friction. It took me a lot of time to adjust to the mousepad, but once I did, I was extremely precise in CS2, and I did surprisingly well even on aim trainers on tracking scenarios. Did not end up breaking any records, but I ended up playing very consistently and very well in CS2 at least. I will have to put this mousepad on the S++ tier. From all the extremely slow mousepads, I've enjoyed this one by far the most. Then we have another pad that I've reviewed, so this is the ZOWIE GSR2. And if you've seen my review, and I recommend you watch it if you haven't, it's one of my favorite mousepad. I will put it to S++ or God tier or whatever. It's extremely good, it's very balanced. Good for TAC FPS, good for tracking. The base is quite stiff, so it does not have that much give, which is great for this surface. The quality is not the best, as for example my unit now has some fraying, and of course the base is not the highest quality around. But it's also a pad that I've used a lot on my Faceit level 10 grind, and I was very consistent with it. We are finally starting to run out of mousepads, so this is the second to last, and this is the Artisan Zero. In my opinion, it's slightly overrated because it's not the one and the only control pad in the world, but it is extremely good. Works well for any kind of game, and actually the more I end up using the Artisan Zero, the more I like it. And it's basically the original balanced control pad, so I will have to put it to S++ at least. Maybe even the double S or the God tier. Let's put it to the S++, as I do not enjoy it quite as much as the 2 pads or 3 pads right there at the moment. And the last mousepad on the list is a huge surprise for me, as I had never heard of the brand before. LethalGamingGear actually recommended it to me. So this is from Quouar, and it's the Hercules mousepad. It's somewhat smooth and very controlled, more controlled than for example the LethalGamingGear Saturn Pros and such, but it still works well even for tracking based games, and it's very high quality in terms of stitching at the base. And the pricing should be quite competitive for what you get. Quouar has many different surfaces, and this is the only one that I've had time to test, but I have 4 or 5 other ones that I need to test out. So let's see if some of those are actually even better. This one goes just to S tier for now. And yeah, that's basically it for this one, but in the part 2 of this tier list kind of series, we will have more mousepads, and that video should be out in about 2 weeks or so. And it will also have some amazing mousepads, like for example the Kurosun Ninja, that has been a huge positive surprise for me. TheWhale Pelz, which is even more of a surprise for me, and some other ones. And also some ones that I do not enjoy quite as much. But yeah, that will be out in about 2 weeks or so. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and see you in the next one.